Web plays such an important part in modern software development that chances are, even in a React Native application, you will need to embed some form of web content. Either something as simple as a URL pointing to a contact us or a terms and conditions page, or something more complicated like a full HTML embed. Now, the component up for this task within React Native is called React Native WebView, and this is actually a very highly maintained community package. So let's take a look. React Native WebView is available as a simple NPM package, and you can see that most platforms, including Expo, are supported. Within our React Native CLI project, we open up the terminal and execute npm I React Native WebView, and this will bring in the React Native WebView component. If you want to do iOS development, we have to do one more step, which is in our iOS directory, we have to run pod install, and this adds React Native WebView to our native bindings for iOS. With this simple setup out of the way, we can jump into our code and start seeing it in action. We can import the WebView component from the React Native WebView package, and in terms of placing it, you can use Flexbox layout as well as standard positional layout. Here we are creating styles for it using Flexbox with Flex1, and just to demonstrate how much space it is taking, we are going to give it a nice blue border. Now we create the WebView component and assign its style to the style within the style sheet, and you can see how much space the component is taking with that blue border. Now, most commonly, you will actually not use the web view with the border so that it looks as seamless as possible as a part of your application. A great feature offered by the web view is that you can pass in any custom HTML that you want by setting the source to that HTML string. A requirement with custom HTML is that you also have to modify origin whitelist to include star. We will talk about this property more in a bit, but let's focus in on the source property where we provide a simple object containing an HTML member which is pointing to some HTML string containing an h1 with the text hello fam. Now, as you can see, this is actually rendering horribly bad, and there is an actual valid reason for this. If you were to take the same HTML and put it on a web page and open that web page within a mobile browser, it would look just as bad, and the fix for that is what is known as a responsive meta tag that most websites come with. We can add this to our custom HTML as well, and with this meta tag set, which scales our content to the device width, our simple h1 looks much more similar to what you might be used to in most websites. Now, when you are using custom HTML with the web view, it is quite common to move this out of your React render because it becomes quite big and difficult to maintain quite quickly. And just putting it before the app, we can format the meta tag and the h1 a bit better. Placing simple HTML is quite neat, but you can actually take it to the next level by embedding full-blown HTML applications within your app as well. As an example, let's look at how we can embed a very popular web JavaScript charting library called Apache eCharts. We can get access to the library from JSDeliver, and then within our body, we create a simple div containing the ID chart that will take up the entire size that will be available to the web view by setting its width and height to 100%, and then we create a script tag to use eCharts to turn this div into a pie chart with 3 data points, red, green, and blue, with their corresponding colors. Now, as soon as I save this file, you can see that the chart is being rendered within our web view. Now, the last piece of this puzzle is to get some information out of this chart back into our application, and for that we are binding to the click function on the chart and using a feature of the React Native web view called post message to send the name of the clicked item, which we will be able to access using an event within our React code. Now we will store this name, which will be red, green, or blue, into a React state variable called favorite, and we will handle the event that a message was posted using the onMessage property for WebView, and we can get access to the contents of that message using event.nativeEvent.data. Within our function, we are simply saving it as the user's favorite. And after the WebView, we will render a simple text component where if a favorite is set, that will be displayed. Otherwise, we will display the string pick a favorite color. Now it starts off with pick a favorite color, and as we click the different items within the pie chart, you can see that the data gets posted and the text for the user favorite changes to whatever was clicked last. Working with custom HTML can help you out when you have a tricky business or a product requirement, but the most common use case for the web view is to point it to a simple URL. So within our React Native application, we create a simple web view where we set the source to an object containing URI instead of HTML. And of course, this URI is going to point to some URL, and here we are pointing it to example.com. Now, as far as the user is concerned, this is actually a full-blown browser. As an example, we can click on links and the web view will navigate to the new URLs. And just as a fun thing, I want to point out that if you visit any RFC within a WebView or any browser, they actually don't come with the responsive meta tag, and you can see that this looks like that horrible H1 that we saw at the start of this lesson. Another thing that we saw at the start of this lesson was the origin whitelist property, and we mentioned that you have to add star to that in order to use custom HTML. You can actually use this property when you set a source to a URI as well. For example, here we are only whitelisting example.com, so as the user clicks around in the web view and visits a URL that is not example.com, it will no longer open within the web view as it is not whitelisted, and instead open in the user's default browser on that device. The React Native web view is highly customizable, and there are lots of props to help you make it truly your own. As an example, we can force the web view to show the loading state before first load, and then customize that loading state by using the render loading prop to render a nicely centered large blue activity indicator. Now on my connection, this is going to fly by pretty fast, so I've slowed down time to show you what it is going to look like. We can actually even customize the internals of the web page that we are rendering by injecting custom JavaScript. Here I'm not doing anything intrusive, I'm simply waiting for DOM content loaded and then rendering the document title, but you can imagine using this yourself for any nefarious or product desired outcome. And similar to other components that we have seen, if you want to get the most power out of the WebView component, you need to grab its reference so you get access to its methods. We use the React provided useRef hook and then assign its result to the ref property on the WebView, so when the WebView gets rendered, this ref will be pointing to that instance. Now we can use this instance in lots of ways. For example, we can create a simple title bar with methods that allow us to go back, reload, as well as go into the future. And now as we navigate from example domain to the IANA domain, we can go back, we can go forward, we can reload any of the current URLs that the web view is displaying. And one of the fanciest things that you can do with this ref is that you can inject JavaScript that will execute within the context of that web view. This would be the same as if you had opened up the developer tools for that browser and put some JavaScript into the console. Here we are simply alerting the document.title. So on example.com, it says example domain, and on the IANA page, it says IANA managed reserved domains. As always, thank you for joining me. Smash the like and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you in the next one.